Today we're going to talk about credit. Anyone here currently have any type of student loans, credit cards, auto loans? All right, good. So you guys have been through a little bit of this process. All right, good. So I won't go into the topics because we're going to figure this out as we go along the presentation. So what is credit? Credit can be described as money you are getting from the financial company, right? It is your ability to repay. It is all about your reputation, right? So what does that credit score mean to you? Does everyone know kind of what the credit bureau credit scores is? A solid score, you're talking about wanting to be in the high 700 range, 800 range. That's your reputation, right? So the better that score is, that's a good starting point for someone to say this is a responsible borrower. Let's really look into seeing if we can give this person some money, right? That is one of the many factors that go into underwriting and what they're looking at when they are making that decision for that loan. So when it comes to understanding credit, you have your negative information. That is retained for 7 years. That's not 7 years from when you first went into negative status with your borrower. That is 7 years from when it finally stops reporting on your credit bureau, right? So you do have some time. This is what I always tell everyone. If you are looking to do something within that time frame, it might not hurt to look at what you are getting reported against, see if you can correct it. That doesn't mean you have to go out and pay them in full. It might not be something that you actually truly borrowed against. You might need to dispute it against the credit bureaus. Every year you get one free credit annual check. So I always encourage everyone to check your free credit report annually to make sure that everything on there is reporting accurately. If it is not, then you need to make sure that you follow up with credit bureaus immediately to get that corrected. Does everyone know what reports and what doesn't necessarily report to the credit bureaus? Does everyone think, like your apartment complexes, do you think they report to credit bureaus?
If you miss a payment. If you miss a payment.
If you walk away, yes, that is correct. They don't report if you're paying on time. However, if you, say when you move out, if there's anything owed that you didn't either get notified about, or if you just decide you don't owe them that money, they will report that to the credit bureaus in the negative way, right? So that means your score starts doing one of these because now you have a collection from your credit bureaus. Cell phone companies do not report unless you again owe them money. So there are certain places that will and will not report to those credit bureaus. So when it comes to positive reporting, you're talking about credit cards, loans, student loans, autos, things of that nature. Chapter 7, bankruptcy. Does everyone know what bankruptcy is? You're basically walking away from every bit of your debts. You've basically just said, like, I just can't do this any longer. So you're going to go and pretty much like wipe your slate clean from your credit. Does everyone know what things cannot be included in bankruptcy? Student loans. So if you have student loans, you will never, ever, ever put those into bankruptcy. They will not allow you to do that. So what do I always tell everyone? If you are borrowing money for school, make sure you borrow what you are needing. Don't just borrow just because they're giving it to you. I know that sometimes you'll see that they offer you a little bit more than what you probably need to survive for the semester. Only take what you need, all right? Because you're gonna have to pay that back, all right? So just make sure that you try to be as responsible as you possibly can when it comes to the borrowing, especially during this time while you guys are in school. Collection counts reflected for 7 years from the date of charge-off. That's basically the charge-off. What that means to you guys, that's when the company actually decides they're not going to be able to get any money from you. So they have written it off as a loss to the company. That is a charge-off. That doesn't mean that that's like the first day that you stopped paying on them, because they're going to take some time to try and collect from you. So they're going to call numerous times over and over again to try and get the money from you. Once they reach that point to where they decide we're not getting anything from them, they write off that loss. That's called a charge-off. That's when your 7-year time frame starts from when it'll eventually fall off your credit report. All right? Yes?
I have a question about the credit report scoring, or like when we check it. Is there a certain time frame when we can check it annually?
No, you get one free 12 calendar year.
Yes. Okay.
Right? So you get one free report. Now, again, it's not giving you your score. When you get your free annual report, it's just giving you the details of your credit report.
And it's one free per bureau. Right?
Per bureau.
So if you
Per
wanted
bureau,
to do
yes.
it each 4 months, if you wanted to like strategically space them out, that would be another way to do it.
Yes, definitely. It is giving you the information you need, because really, the score is like a minor piece to when lenders are looking at, because they're looking at your details. They want to see what you have open, they want to see what you've closed over time, they want to see who's inquiring on your credit. Those are the more important pieces that they're looking at on your credit report. And that's the stuff that you guys should be looking at regularly, just to make sure everything is accurate. Positive information, as long as there's trade lines that are positively being paid on, or it's open account, it's going to report against your credit history. No credit does make it a little bit difficult to borrow. That's a whole different type of lending, and that's something anyone can get into, because you're talking about maybe doing a secured loan or having a co-borrower. There are ways to get what you need to borrow. It's just a matter of figuring out what needs to be done at that time. Good credit obviously is going to give you the better rates, better payments. There's no doubt about that. Credit history affects other items as well. I will tell you guys, this one, just out of just what I've witnessed over my years working for Addition Financial, the job opportunities, I've seen people lose their opportunity because of their credit report. We've been prepared to offer jobs, and the minute credit report was pulled, that job offer was rescinded in about 2 seconds. It does happen. It's not going to happen for every employer, but for most employers, they do want to see who they're hiring, especially if you have any type of cash handling that you're going to be doing, or any kind of financial responsibilities, or even financial responsibilities for the company directly. They're going to want to make sure that you are a responsible person. Utility cell phones, I don't know if any of you guys have had to pay any kind of down payment or security deposit, whether it's for rent or cell phones or utilities. That's because you probably have limited to no credit, right? That's the beginning part. Banking, that's when you're talking about your lending and stuff, because when you are applying for any type of lending, they're basing your rate off of that score that you currently have. There's not a way to negotiate what's out there. It's your rate is based off of the score that you have from the credit bureau that they're pulling from. And then rental housing opportunities, again, if you guys have noticed, either they're going to ask you for someone to co-borrow or co-sign for you, right? And that's probably because you have limited credit, or they're going to ask you for a higher security deposit, just to make sure that they are protecting what they are allowing you to rent. Good credit is what's going to help, obviously, with saving on the interest rates. You're going to have lower interest rates on credit cards. So how many of you guys have credit cards at this time? Does everyone know where they sit on their interest rates at this time? Yeah? It's probably a little bit higher than what normally is out there. So, and I don't advocate for someone going out and shopping credit cards on any kind of regularity, because that could become a problem as well. But as you build that history, it is something to look into later down the road. And it doesn't mean you have to go find a new credit card. You can even call your current credit card companies and ask them, what can you do for me now? Now that I have that time that I've paid on time for you guys over these past couple of years, let's talk about maybe getting a better rate. Is there something better you can do for me? And see what they do. My first credit card, I still have it. It was when I first started college a few years back, not too long ago. This is when credit card companies were allowed to come on campus and set up tables and give you a credit card with just filling out a paper application. So my first credit card, it's at a 17% rate. All right, and I still have that credit card in my credit file. I don't use that card any longer because of the high interest rate, but I call them probably every other year just to see if there's anything they want to do for me. Because I told them, I'm like, I would like to use your card. I have it, you know, and that's my longest running credit history. What can we do? And then you know what they tell me? Apply for a new card. So I said, okay, thanks for the update. Bye. Right? So I keep the card, because one of the things when we talk about how your credit profile is created, one of it is for longevity of credit established, right? So your first credit card is the first thing that's reporting as how long you had credit established. So you have to be very careful and cautious about what you are closing and when you're closing it, because you don't want to affect your score too terribly bad.
Do they ever close automatically?
Yes. Yes, they do. If there's a lack of use over a certain amount of time, there are some cards that will shut down themselves.
So will your card shut down?
No, because every couple months I put a tank of gas on there and then I pay it off.
So you don't purpose?
And yes.
To keep longevity and stuff?
That's correct. Yeah, so there are ways to work things out as well to your benefit, right? Credit card companies, credit cards are I always tell you, a necessary evil, right? You have to have it for credit, you have to have it for emergencies, but that does not mean that you need to live on that credit card, right? There are some people, I am not one of them, that use their credit cards to pay for everything, right? But they are really, really good with their budgeting, and they pay that credit card off every statement cycle. So they're not paying interest, but they're getting the points, or the cash back points, right? Which is great. If you can budget correctly to do that, by all means, do what works for you. I personally cannot do that, so I don't use my credit cards in that nature, right? But I do use my one card every once in a blue moon just to keep it active. Because I think it's after, most credit card companies have different rules, so usually it's about 12-month time frame. If there's no activity, they will just shut it down because it's costing them money just to keep that card open for you. All right? Anyone have store cards? Very nice. If you are ever in the situation when you go into, like, say, a Target, a Walmart, Best Buy, if you ever have a few extra moments, always at the register, they're gonna always ask if you want to finance with them. Ask them for the terms. It drives them crazy. All right? And it's not that you're intentionally trying to upset them, but it's trying to get more details from them, right? Ask them, what's my rate gonna be? What's the terms on your card? Ask for, if they're trying to sell you on a card, they should be able to know some of the details that they're trying to provide for you, right? Because what are they telling you? You're gonna get 10% off for your first purchase. That's fantastic. What are the terms for the card? Because what they failed to mention is what the rate is if you're not paying this off month to month. What interest you're gonna get charged, right? And that's what they're hoping for. They're gonna give you a $500 limit, a $1,000 limit, and they're gonna hope you're gonna use every bit of that limit to buy stuff that you probably had no intention of buying when you first walked in. But now that you have that credit available, you're gonna spend that money, and then you're not gonna be able to pay it off when that statement comes in. So now you're getting charged interest. So every bit of that 10% that they gave you off for that first purchase, you're paying right back to them in interest over the next month or two. All right, so just be very careful.
Are store cards not recommended to have?
I don't say that there's nothing wrong with having store cards if you use them appropriately, because the discount is great. So there's nothing wrong with having them, right? So it's just a matter of just making sure you know what you're getting into, right? Even with credit cards, know what you are signing up for. Read those disclosures, read what information they're providing to you, right? Because points are great, but if you're not redeeming those points, you could lose them just as easily. So you've worked so hard to earn the points to not actually redeem, give them the cash back. Know what type of details and how you can redeem stuff to make sure that it's easy for you to get to use that card, right? So again, with that great credit, you're gonna get better loan rates, better terms. Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I was wondering, why didn't you close your first card?
Why haven't I?
Why haven't you let it just expire? Is it because of your credit score or?
Because of how long I've had that card. Because if I close out my first card,
Yeah.
what's gonna happen, remember, part of your credit score is dictated by how long you've had credit established. So that's my first card I ever opened, that's the first credit I ever opened, right? So if I shut that down, then my credit established date changes from that date now to my next open loan or credit card.
Okay.
So I think that's probably about 5 years difference. So I'll initially take a hit on it, and it won't completely destroy my credit, but I don't need to really shut that card down. I don't need to, I carry 2 cards, that's it. I have 2 cards in my life. So that one, like I said, I put a tank of gas on there every couple months, pay it off, no big deal. But I like how long I've had that card. And we'll go over like how the details of how that credit score gets established from the different criteria. Because if you're opening a card to shut a card down, opening a card to shut a card down, you're kind of almost harming your own credit, because you're gonna see all these closed cards, right? So every time you close that card out, it's gonna shift when you've established your credit over and over again. And you don't want to do that either, because that will play an effect on your score. All right? Did you have a question, or you're helping? Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead. So this is a prime example of how good credit, bad credit can play an effect on what you are borrowing against. So some with good credit don't really look at the rates as much, because these rates change. I mean, God, I think we've had about like 5 different rate changes over this past year. And it usually affects when prime rate changes. But a financing of $12,500 at a 1.99 for 5 years, you're looking at monthly payments of $220 a month. The total interest over the 5 years, you're paying $624. For 5 years, that's really not, I mean, that's not bad at all. On the flip side though, you come over into the bad credit side, $12,500 at a 14.5% interest rate. Your monthly payment now went from $220 to now $292, but you almost paid $5,000 in interest. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That is just one prime reason why credit is so important, because you never know when you might need to actually borrow, right? You might say, oh, I don't need a car loan for a couple of years. That's great. But there might come an emergency. You might get into, I was just speaking to a member the other day who got into a car accident. Had no intentions of getting an auto loan, but had no choice because they got into a car accident. And you know what happens? If you're sitting on that side at that time when the emergency happens, you have no other options. You're gonna take what financing is provided to you. Unless you have a good co-borrower or someone that might be able to help offset that. But if you keep your score in this range, always, you never have anything to worry about. You walk in, you should be able to finance, it should be your choice at that point in time. All right, so this is what I was talking about when it comes to credit scores and how they kind of break down, right? So this is a little bit of an idea. 35% of your score is generated from your payment history. So when you shut down that card, every payment piece that you've provided, every payment history you've had with them, the length of credit history, those two items get adjusted, right? Because that payment history closes out and no longer reports. The length of history changes from your first open card now to whatever your next loan or credit card is. So you gotta be very careful about why and what you're shutting down, all right? So 35% is all about payment history. So make sure at least you're making your minimum payments every statement cycle, at least. If you cannot pay more, at least make your minimum payments and get them in there on time. Because when they start reporting the negative, this is what I was telling everyone, you can have 5 positive trade lines going at a time. One negative will always play a bigger role on your score than any positives that you have, all right? Does anyone think that you have to carry a balance on your credit card to get a better score? Good. You do not. It's not necessary to carry balance. You don't have to rack up the card. When I say rack up the card, I mean use every bit of the limit provided and then make your minimum payments. That's not necessary. You're not getting bonus points from the credit bureaus to do that kind of stuff. All they want to see is that you're making your payments on time. How long you've had credit, and you're making your payments on time. That's really all that they truly care about, okay? They don't care about the amounts that you're borrowing. That's not anything that's gonna help your score change any faster. The types of credit, they do like to see a little bit of a mixture in your credit report. So when I say mixture, your auto loans, your personal loans, your student loans, your mortgages, those are all called like installment loans. They're all closed-ended, right? They have a set rate, a set term, a set payment. Then you have your credit cards, your store cards, those are all revolving because every time you pay it off, that limit opens back up to you again to use. So it's a revolving credit that's gonna constantly stay open for you. They always like to see a happy mixture between your installment loans and your revolving loans. Now there's gonna come times where you might not have credit cards and personal loans or auto loans, that's okay. You don't have to panic, you don't have to go out and take out a loan just to make sure you have a proper mixture. That's not what I am saying, all right? I try to tell people to minimize their credit life as best as they possibly can to make your own life that much easier, all right? You don't have to have 10 different things out there. It does not make life easier for you, I promise, all right? Keep yourself in the financial world as minimal as possible, so as your life changes, you're not putting yourself in any type of harm's way, all right? They also look at new credit too. So if you're opening multiple cards, multiple loans at the same time, that sometimes plays an effect on your score too, not in the good way. So opening 5 new credit cards is not a good thing. Store cards, just because they offer you a great deal, doesn't mean it's always the greatest idea too, right? Because if you go from Target to Walmart to Macy's to Kohl's, and everyone's got a great deal, I understand that, but that doesn't mean you have to open up a card with each one of these places. All right? Pick and choose wisely as to what you should have and what you need out there.
How often should you, if I were planning to open a new credit card, should I have my old one for a certain amount of time, or like, is there?
No, there's not anything where it says like you should wait, like there's like a waiting period for it. No, this is my own personal rule of thumb. I always say, you pick and choose how you want to. 2 to 3 cards max is what you should ever have open and available. Any more than that, how are you keeping track? I mean, if you can, good for you, but dang, like, you might put yourself into a tougher spot by having that many cards, because can you imagine how many of you have become a victim of fraud? Right? How many times have your credit card, debit card been hacked? Right? Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine if you have 10 different credit cards out there? All right? This World Wide Web it's an impressive item, right? And I see all these people that make these things sign up for this so they'll keep an eye on your information for the black market of the internet and stuff like that. That's great, but you can monitor this stuff yourself. Like Rebecca, correct? No, I'm sorry. Jessica, excuse me, I'm sorry, Jessica. As Jessica stated, you can check the 3 different bureaus over the life of the year, okay? So as you are looking at it, what you're looking for is the inquiries. Who's inquiring on my credit? Did I authorize that? If you didn't authorize it, then you should be finding out, right? Check your mail. That is probably the biggest key to find out if somebody has potentially victimized your credit. I've been a victim of credit fraud. All right, I work for the financial industry and I have had to fight to get stuff removed off my credit report. Someone stole my information, bought 10 cell phones in my name with Verizon. I was on the phone with Verizon for hours, numerous days, to explain to them that it was not me. I was never a customer of Verizon. I had to call the police, get a police report. I had to go to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, Federal Trade, to put in the complaint that I had Verizon reporting on my credit report that I owed them money for these phones. I went to a Verizon store and they're like, yeah, we can't help you. I'm like, please, you're kidding me, right? Like, I showed them my phone. I'm like, does this look anywhere near like an iPhone 10? I have an iPhone 5, people, okay? I'm like, let's not confuse anyone. I got an iPhone 5. I'm like, and I was showing the person, I'm like, can you please contact your fraud department and let them know this is not me? It wasn't even purchased in Orlando area. I'm like, I'm local here to Orlando. The fight sometimes becomes your responsibility. So that is the most important piece for you guys to understand. If you find something on your credit report that does not belong to you, you're gonna have to put some effort in to get that removed. But don't give up, because that is your credit report. And you know what happens? You go out to borrow money and you come back to that 14.5% rate. Because you know what happens when you have that negative self-reporting against your credit report? Even if it's not yours, that score is still yours. Even when you fight and get that corrected, you still have to bounce back and get your score back in order. They don't just automatically put you back to the beginning of where you should have been when that report wasn't there. You have to start right from that point and get your score back up to where it needs to go. All right? So to maintain a healthy score, you're going to be doing the following. Again, paying on time. If I cannot stress anything to you guys today, pay on time. If you need to figure it out before the date of a due date, right? And try not to come in after the fact to try and figure out what you can do. This is what I always tell everyone, especially when it comes to the credit union. The more you are upfront and honest and open and get ahead of any issues you have going on, they will try their best to work with you any way they possibly can. All right, I'm not saying that they're gonna be able to fix everything for you and make everything magically do good, but at least you've got ahead of the game. You don't wanna come in after the fact trying to give them a story or try to give them some information to try and fix what has already happened. You wanna do it before those due dates. So make sure you're making your payments on time. If you can't pay out those balances every month, try to minimize what you're using those credit cards for. Unless, like I said, you are one of those really impressive lenders or borrowers that can use their credit card for everything and pay it off at the end of the month, then do what you're doing. Just make sure you're paying off those balances from month to month. You want to diversify the credit portfolio, that's that happy mixture, if you can. But again, don't feel like you have to, all right? Just have one on your credit report, what you currently need at that time. And never, never, never backside credit cards. An emergency might happen, but try to work on getting those things paid off as quickly as you possibly can. Does anyone know the 3 major credit bureaus? Does anyone know any of the credit bureaus?
Equifax.
Equifax? Equifax? I feel like you want to answer something.
And my guess is FICO, but I don't know if they.
FICO is your score
Okay.
that you get, but you're close. You're on track.
TransUnion.
TransUnion, yeah. You got one more for me? You got Equifax, TransUnion.
That's the one too.
No, you're good. Just
Experience?
Experian. You got it. All right. Ah, there we go. There it is. So these are your 3 bureaus. These are the ones. Look, you can go straight to Equifax.com and get your free credit report. Okay. Same with Experian. Same with TransUnion. So every 4 months, pull up their website and put the request in. I did one not so long ago with Equifax. My report was in my inbox for my email within like minutes of the request. So it does not take very long to get your report. And again, it is just your report. So don't freak out when you're not gonna see a score on there. They're not providing your score. If you want the score, you're paying for the score. All right? But don't worry about the score as much as worry about the details. Make sure that those things are accurate and correct. All right. So delinquent accounts, remember, cell phone companies, utility companies, apartment complexes, any rental places, they will never report against your credit bureaus unless you owe them money. All right? If they have to, they will sell it off to a collection agency, you know, so they can at least make a couple bucks off of what is owed to them. And just remember, if they don't get their money, they sell it off to the collection agency, that whole cycle begins again on your credit report. So that's a new agency reporting against your credit bureau, not in a good way. So it's gonna just continually keep your score staying in that low level. So you got about 4 to 6 months of non-payment. These can really obviously damage your credit report. Anything past 30 days late is gonna start damaging your score. All right, so like I said, that's where that on-time payment is crucial. Call your creditors and ask if possible to pay back the amount over a few months. This is a very key piece, right? Like I was telling you, if you ever have to try and get ahead of something, try to get ahead of it before your due date. See what they can come back with. I always encourage everyone, call your credit card companies, call the store card, see what they can offer for you. Sometimes they have promotions, specials going on. They might be able to throw you into something at that time, even if it's a temporary thing. They might be able to freeze your credit card, at least for the time being, so you're not getting charged interest, but you can make your payments. You won't be able to use a card, but at least they might work with you somewhere so that you're not putting yourself in any worse of a situation, but trying to get yourself out of anything that you might have done.
How do medical debts affect your credit report?
Medical, when it comes to the underwriting side, they don't look at medical collections. Okay, so that won't be a deciding factor when they're looking at any kind of loan applications. However, collections from medical will affect your score. All right, so if it's on there, if it's reporting, it's going to play an effect on that score piece. So that could potentially lower your score a little bit, which means your rate is going to be on that higher side. So if you have medical collections, it doesn't hurt to reach out to them and see what they can come back with, right? You can call them to negotiate, settle on payments, even if it's a small monthly payment, to get it out of that collection status. If it's not yours, dispute. This is why I keep telling you, if it's not yours, you better dispute and dispute and dispute until they get that thing removed. Because I have seen medical collections get put on people's credit files, and it wasn't even theirs, it was their family members. It happens. Anyone here a junior?
Not like junior in school. Like
Oh, I'm sorry, not junior school, my apologies. Like a junior of a parent's name?
Yeah.
the second of your name,
Sorry.
third of your name.
My apologies, yeah. That's my bad. So you will have, it does happen sometimes where names get crisscrossed. So a junior, a senior, the third, their files get merged sometimes. It becomes quite an issue. Not to say that it's going to happen, but that's where checking your credit reports help, okay? Because I have a very good friend of mine. He is a junior, and his dad had a collection from when he was a young child that was on his credit report. And when he called the credit bureau, he's like, I was like 5 years old when this happened. And you know what? They're like, oh, okay, why don't you just put that in as a dispute and we'll take a look at it. I mean, that's the kind of response that they're getting. They're not gonna act fast. All right, sometimes you have to follow up with them 2 or 3 times to get this thing, but that's where your persistence is gonna help get this stuff corrected. All right? For smaller debts, ask creditors if they're willing to settle for less than the amount owed. It doesn't hurt to try and see what you could potentially do if you ever get into the situation. I hope none of you ever have to worry about this kind of stuff and never get into this situation. But if you ever happen to get into that kind of piece, if you ever have to settle with someone, try to settle for a one-time only payment, but get in writing from them that with that payment, that debt is settled, which means they're not going to sell off any difference to any other creditors. Make sure you have that in writing before you make that payment. Because you want to make sure that that next month they report one more time that it shows settled and a zero balance is owed from there. All right? And then they will no longer report against your credit bureau. Collection agency, if you're willing to settle debts for a fraction amount, that is true. It's just a matter of, I'm going to keep going into persistence. You might have to talk to about 5, 6, 10 different people until you get what you want. Go in there with an amount owed that you want to pay them. Stick to your number, okay? Try to negotiate as best you can with them. Just keep asking, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? See what they can come back with, okay? Obviously get the settlement agreement in writing by email so you have for your records. And ask the agent to remove the collection from your credit report. Once you make that payment, say, okay, can you please now clear this off my report? All right, see if they can send you something to show that proof that it's been sent to the credit bureaus. The more you have in writing, what's gonna happen is when you check the next 4 months to the next bureau to make sure that everything is accurately reporting, if it hasn't been updated at that point in time, you have documents that you can send direct to the credit bureaus to update for you. Just make sure you always keep those copies, okay? Don't send them the originals. So correcting those errors, you can dispute by email if you want to, direct to those credit bureaus. You can write to them. I would say you can call them too if you like. Now remember, there's not very many people that are on those phones, but if you are willing to have the time to take with the phone call, you can try to get in touch with someone directly. Just make sure you get the return receipt if you're sending anything by mail so that you know that they have received those documents. And then tell the information provider writing the disputed item in your credit report. You want to make sure that you're very clear about what you are disputing and why you're disputing it. Send them as much detail as you possibly can and as many pieces of proof to show why that should be removed off of your credit report. All right, obviously include the copies, send a letter to the address listed on your credit report. It'll have all that information. It should have most of that information on there for you to be able to get that removed. All right, so when you're building credit, if any of you are starting to build credit, make sure you understand the terms, conditions. That goes for anything that you're signing up for or taking out. Just make sure you understand exactly what you are signing up for before you get into it, okay? Try to ask as many questions as you can. Try to read up on the details of what it is that you are signing up for. Try to not let your bills exceed the 10 to 20% of your monthly take-home income. And if you cannot pay off your bill, your credit card from month to month in full, try to at least make sure you're making a little bit more than the minimum payments. You're not going to get bonus points for making extra, but hopefully you're going to get charged less interest for carrying that balance from month to month. Okay? That's what we talk about when we're saying about paying a little extra toward it, because hopefully you'll get it paid off a little bit sooner and with a little bit less that you financed. So a few tips to help maintain the good credit. Again, step 1, this will never change. Make sure you're making your payments on time. If you can, make sure you're paying those balances off in full. Try to keep your credit utilization low. That just means those revolving credits that you currently carry. You don't want them to be reporting the high balances if you're ever carrying a high balance. I always say 50% is a good mark to kind of keep in your mind. If you have a limit of $1,000, try to keep your balance below 500.
Can you define what a balance is?
The balance would be whatever you're utilizing on your card for that statement cycle. So when you receive your statement, if you pay it off in full, right, you're back to square one, right? So you say you have $1,000 limit on your card. So you have $1,000 to use. That balance is whatever you've starting to use that card to pay for things, right? In between those statement cycles. So when that statement ends at the end, whatever you've used the card in that time frame, that's going to be the balance that you owe them. All right. You want to try to make sure, like I said, you keep it. I always say 50% is a mark. I've heard 30%. I only say 50% because it's a lot easier for me to calculate in my head as quick as possible to know like where I need to keep my card. All right. If you're paying it off from month to month, that's great. But if you're carrying a balance, just try to keep it under that mark, because then you're not showing like you are overutilizing your credit, because that is another piece that kind of harms your credit sometimes.
So when you said that, you should just, if you want to, you can keep a $0 balance, like pay off right after you make a purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that would that even register with the credit card company? Because don't you have to let it sit for like a little bit at least?
No, because they're gonna report to the credit bureaus that you have an active card,
Okay.
right? That a payment's been made, an active
Yeah.
card.
Okay.
That you just carry a zero balance.
Mhm.
It's okay.
Okay.
There's nothing that states that you have to keep it on for any kind of time frame. It's not necessary. I've heard so many things over these past couple of years. I always sometimes I have to scratch my own head because I'm like, where did you hear that from? Like, who told you this? And why would they give you that kind of information? Because I've heard people that they have a 500 limit credit card and they used all 500 of it right up front, and then they're just making their minimum payment that's been asked. And I keep going back going, why are you doing this? Well, because I want to make sure that they see that I'm using this card. I'm like, you don't have to carry the balance for them to see that you're using the card. All right, and that's not helping you. It's actually putting a little bit more of a damper on your credit profile. All right?
And you're paying more to borrow that money because you're paying interest.
That is
If you're
very,
concerned about being able to keep track of, the fact that you owe something or what have you, you could go on one end of the spectrum and charge something and then immediately go home and pay for it.
Mhm.
Like whatever you've just paid, then as long as you have that amount in whatever account you're paying it with, do that. You could set up automatic payments for whatever the minimum is. If you feel like, okay, well, I know I'm at least gonna have 25 bucks in my account, I'm gonna set up an automatic payment for each month to have for $25. Or if you're really good with budgeting, shout out for our budgeting hacks on November 14th. You could even set it up to pay in full every month if you're confident that that amount of money is gonna be available in your checking account.
oh yeah. Hopefully, like I said, you can make it as easy for yourselves as you possibly can. If you can go online and make those payments yourself, great. If you're not good with that one, if you set up for it automatically to deduct from your account, I would say just make sure that budgeting piece comes in handy. Make sure you have the money available for that credit or for that pull to come out of your account.
So are balances the most you can take, like, for your entire span of the largest amount of debt you can have on a card, or is it just how much you can spend within a month?
The limit is the amount that you can utilize at the max, right? So say they give you a $500 limit, 500 is the most you can use in that statement cycle.
The balance is what you've charged
The
on.
balance is what you have charged on there. So say you've only used $250 of your limit, so you still have 200 available to use in that statement cycle,
Okay.
right? But the limit is what they set for you, saying this is how much max you can charge on this card at this given
But
time.
I could keep maxing out my balance each month without paying for it.
You could.
Not saying that I should. but it's like-
Yeah, I was saying, you could, but I hope over this time frame we've gone over a little bit of why you don't want to
As long as
necessarily.
you're making your minimum payment.
Well, because I'm just wondering, if let's say I spent $1,000 a month and my max is $1,000, and let's say I paid it off, and it's halfway through the month, would they let me keep
Yeah.
spending?
If you make a payment in the middle of it, yes. So what'll
Okay.
happen is basically when you make that payment, some places take a day or two for that clearing process.
Yeah.
What'll happen is it'll basically reset your available limit.
Oh,
So you don't have to wait to the end of the statement cycle to make your payment for it to reset. If you're paying in the middle, it will constantly readjust to show what your limit availability is.
Oh.
Right? So yes, you don't have to wait to the end to do that. You can do that throughout the entire statement process.
Right.
All right.
For those of you that have credit cards too, the credit card companies have to put how long it's gonna take you to pay off the card if you were to do just the minimum payment, and it's really scary to see how long something really small could take to pay off with just minimum. And then it costs you a lot more than it costs you to just, buy the item outright. So I encourage you, if you have a credit card, to look at the next bill and kind of see how long it would take you with that minimum payment, 'cause it'll shock you.
Don't max out your card to see what that daily This is what I'm gonna tell you guys. I usually use a lot of my own personal experiences over the few years I'm older than you guys. Not that much. But I will tell you guys, like I said, I have the 2 cards that I've always carried. All right. Over my time, I've gotten them to where I have pretty decent limits on them. I have made many mistakes in my past. Okay, I haven't always preached about this stuff. All right. I've also lived on the other side, right? And I've had to use my cards not for always the most important items, or they were important to me. Most people are like, what the heck were you thinking, Tim? All right. So when my wife and I we've lived in Orlando now for 16 years. When we first moved up here, we wanted to buy our first home. So we got our first home. My wife was all about decorating. That's fine for her. I was all about electronics, right? I wanted the coolest electronics for myself. I didn't care for anyone else. But I want to make sure I had the TV on the wall, because that was big back then. Now it's like second nature. Everyone just already has it. But back then, like, to have one of those was like very cool. So I needed it on the wall. My wife wanted it in one of these nice little frames, which is fine. That was her choice. I wanted the surround sound. All right. I wanted the DVDs, because that's back when DVDs were a big item, right? So I go to, at the time, Circuit City, because they were still open. I don't know if any of you knows who Circuit City. Circuit City was just like Best Buy. Okay. All right. Just like Best Buy. I go to Circuit City. So I said I need a television for my family room. I need a television for each of my bedrooms, right? Because if you're gonna go there, you need to make sure you get them all done, right? And I would say I also need them to be the same brand television. All right, so I need the TV wall mounts, I need TVs, I need DVD players for each room. For the family room, I wanted a 500 disc DVD player, because I wanted to make sure that I had enough space that I never had to go and keep switching them out, right? Because if you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it right. Okay, I wanted the speakers to go on the cubes, behind, so I wanted to make sure I heard it from every angle, as best I could. They also told me I needed a Blu-ray player, because I was good at that time. But why get a DVD Blu-ray player when you get a PS3, right? So now you have a game system and a Blu-ray player, right? I'm not even a gamer, but I had to get a PS3 to go with it, all right? I needed the backup system to make sure that the battery backup life, if the power ever went down, this thing is never gonna shut down on me. We had it all, right? So these guys came out to install it. They're like, yep, we can do the TV here, we can do this for you. They're like, yeah, these speakers would be okay for your surround sound, but why would you want them to be so visible when we can build them into your ceilings? And we can build a subwoofer right behind your couch. So you will not see anything, but you will hear it even better. So what do I think? Yeah, because I need it. Please make this happen for me. My wife was at work that day. So that was mistake 1. Okay? This is when you never let someone do any type of additional shopping without a second party there to control them. Because I needed to be controlled. And I was not. Because I said, that sounds amazing. So these guys are up in my attic, drilling holes for the speakers. They're behind my couch, drilling holes into the wall to put all this stuff so it's all hidden. And then they're like, we need you to step outside for a second, because we're gonna test this room out to make sure that all the speakers are working properly. I'm like, okay, so I'm outside and I hear this, like the music was just like off the charts loud. And I don't like loud music. So I don't know what, I was like, oh boy. I didn't even think twice about it. I walked in, I've got 6 speakers that surround this one family room. I got a subwoofer behind that, like when you're sitting on the couch, like it just like shakes your back. Like I don't even like I'm not even making this up. Like this is legit, okay? So then they go like this, and that's your bill. And I looked at the bill and I said, huh. Oops. Oops, because I have nowhere near that amount to pay for you in cash. They're like, that's all right, we take card. I'm like, good, because that's all I got to offer. So I put this on my card. And to Valerie's point, the next month, when they sent me my bill, and it said, if you pay your minimum amount, it's going to take you, can anyone tell me how much they think it would have taken me if I paid my minimum amount? Years.
30 years.
It was very close to 30 years.
God.
Very close to 30 years. And I'm not talking about a $50 monthly payment, by the way, for the minimum. That's how much damage one person can do in that amount of time. I still have to apologize to my wife regularly for the mistake. But now it took us, I want to say about 5 years to get that thing paid off. 5 years to get it paid off. But I vowed to her that I would never, ever, ever, ever do that again. But can anyone tell me on the 5th year what could have possibly happened? You can even imagine. The TV broke.
Oh God.
So I go out and buy another TV. But what I tell her, I will not buy another TV until I can pay for it in cash. So what I did, I went and got the TV from our bedroom
And play that.
and I brought it outside. So we had a small little TV for our family room, right? And it reminded me every day. Every day. Don't do this to yourself, guys. I'm telling you right now, something might sound really, really cool at that time. Take a step back. Is it really worth your time and efforts? Because every month that I got that bill, it just drove me more and more crazy. Because I really wanted to go back to Circuit City and throw everything at them. I want to find those installers, like, man, you guys shouldn't be installers, you should be salespeople. Man, either you found the biggest sucker, which when it comes to electronics, I was. All right. But you guys sold me on a product that I really did not need. So that's very important to you guys. Like I said, when you're looking at your credit and stuff, make sure what you are buying is something that you need. Try to save up for it before you make that purchase. You're not going to be able to purchase everything in cash at all times, but make sure that if it's something that you need, it is the need that you need at that time.
So what is the minimum payment of the total bill? Don't mind.
Minimum payment was, I want to say it was like $200, $300 a month, something like that.
For 30
The
years.
total bill came out to, it was over $10,000.
That's a deck.
It was a
That's
sweet
basement.
system. It was a sweet system. I'm not gonna lie. It was a sweet system. I don't make this stuff up, I swear. Come to my house, you would see these speakers. Like I look at them all the time, I just want to take like something and just start like bashing them because I really should be bashing myself for making that choice. But that, like I said, that's how quickly someone in a store can make those types of decisions. That's why budgeting that you keep talking about is so important. Budgeting is that key that helps you guys stay in check with what you are spending, right? When I go to the store, when my wife goes to the store, especially when we go to the grocery store, we go with a list. Go to the list, go down the aisles, grab from the list, right? And I always tell people, you know why I'm not allowed to go to the store, as you can tell, right? You go to Publix and they got you with those BOGOs, right? Because they put them right in the front to get you every time, all right? If you're disciplined and you can walk right past them, great. I cannot, all right? Because I always know I'm getting a good deal with a BOGO, all right?
Can you recap? I feel like you've touched on a lot of these things, but just to summarize it, wrap it up neatly, why would a college student want to open a credit card if maybe they don't have any expenses that they're, trying to cover now, just for their future investment in themselves? Why would they want to open a credit card?
There's a time and a place for everyone to have a credit card. That is up to each person individually as to when they think it's time to get one of them. Because you do want to start building credit and you want to do it before you possibly get out of school. All right. One, it's to help kind of learn how to utilize the card, get used to it, get that small limit so you kind of make those good choices when it comes to the purchases. But two, it's when you get out of school, that's when life changes for you. Sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. I still want to be in school right now. So me, when I got out of school, I wanted to go back into school. I tried every which way I possibly could, and it just wasn't happening. But when you get out into the real world, the real bills start occurring. Right? That's when you possibly need to get that car. So what happens when you decide to go get that car when you graduate? You have no credit. So we might be able to get you, if you find a lender that can do no score lending, you're looking at a 14% rate. And you saw how much interest you're going to pay on that. Or you get a co-borrower, if you have one, that might be willing to help you out, that has good credit. But if you have the car that you've worked on over a little bit of time, you've already started to establish your own history, your own payment history, your own score. So you're already working as a borrower as the time progresses. So you're not falling into something later down the road. Because the worst thing that can happen is when those emergencies hit, and now you're desperately trying to find someone to let you borrow some money. You don't want to be in that situation where you are desperately trying to find, because you're going to take whatever somebody offers. Why do you think you see those commercials all the time? I don't know if anyone sees them any longer, but those the lenders that are the Cherokee and the different borrowers that offer you like same day financing for $2,500, $3,000 at 30%, right? They are going to give you what you are asking for, but they're going to also charge you a ton of money to borrow. You just don't want to be in that situation if you don't have to. So this is the time, like I said, it doesn't have to be right when you start school. It doesn't have to be in the middle of it. It could be closer to the end of when you're getting about to finish with school to start building that credit. But there's always a time when you need to start building that credit.
And even if it's just that tank of gas or one run of groceries that you were going to pay for on a debit card anyway, as long as you can remember that you owe it, pay it off, doing yourself a favor and starting it early is a worthwhile use of your time.
It makes life that much easier for yourselves, right? Because everything from there just slowly starts happening. So you can have your first card at the beginning and just use that, like I said, for the tank of gas or for groceries, no big deal. And then when you graduate, now you look for maybe that card that has the cash back rewards program. But then you have a score, you have a history. Now you can really shop something out there to see who's going to give you that best deal. Right? And then later down the road, when it comes to the auto and stuff, you're not worried about what you're going to get because they're going to be begging you to borrow their funds. You're going to have many lenders that are going to say, I will let you borrow my money. And you're going to say, okay, who's going to give me the best rate out there? Right? You have become the owner of the situation, not the one that's saying, I'll take whatever's given to me just so I can get what I need. Because lending will happen over time, but everything is all within those means, right? Because credit cards, autos, potentially a personal loan here and there, maybe a home loan, those are all going to happen at some point in time. The ones that I see that I'm like, I wish you would have saw me like a month ago, a year ago, maybe, are the ones that are like, okay, I got a job, but I need to have a reasonable vehicle to get me to and from. And then you look at their credit and I'm like, I would love to help you out. Do you have someone that can go borrow with you? Because we want to get this done for you, but you just don't have enough history in there to really make it happen for yourself at this moment. Or the one that comes after they graduate, I would like to buy a house. Okay. Well, we need to have some credit established to get that home for you, okay? It's all within time, but it never hurts to start. Shop it out there. See what's out there and available for you guys to truly help build your score. And for those that already have credit and are establishing it, you can always stop in too. I always invite everyone to come visit us. You don't have to be a member just to come in and ask questions. We are all here to help. We're on Canvas for a reason. It's to help kind of guide and give you guys the information that we could potentially provide for you to make it that much easier for you through school and after. All right? No matter where you are, we are always here to help. I hope I answered everything that you guys were looking to get. Does anyone have any Yes.
If you're gonna graduate in like the next year but don't have any credit, what would you recommend like to start doing for that?
The easiest way, if you're looking to do it on your own, there are secured cards out there that you can do. You're basically backing a card up with your own cash, right? Because you have limited to no credit. So you're basically lending yourself the money, but with that secured card, you back it with your cash, you're gonna use it as a normal credit card, right? So you're gonna be paying it off from month to month, or from statement to statement, but it's gonna report to the credit bureaus that you have this card that's in existence, you're making your payments on time, you're doing everything you should be doing. The goal is it's secured at the beginning, and I would say about 12 months time frame, then you change it over into an unsecured card. All right.
Where can you find one of those secured cards?
Well, not to plug ourselves, but
Come see us.
Most places have it. Come see us. We have an actual, we have our Aspire card, which is a half and half card for all of our college students. It's a 500 limit card. You have to back it with 250 of your own dollars. So you don't have to come up with a full amount to try and back it up. You just come up with half of it, and we can get you that secured card. But then it's a good way to learn. Everything about these cards, it's not just to have it, it's to learn how to use it and use it the correct way. Don't make the mistakes that I made. All right? Because that's one of many, I promise you guys. All right? Don't make those types of mistakes. You can learn and kind of figure this out at this time, and then you get into everything that you need to do after that. All right. Any other questions? Or?
Aren't there like debit cards that double as credit cards temporarily? Or
If there's something out there like that, you're gonna have to tell me about it, because I've never heard of a card.
if you use it online, it like makes a hold or something, and then they take it from your account.
Well, any debit card comes with either a Visa or MasterCard backing. So it depends on how the transaction is charged, whether it's online or in the store. Some of them use the PIN side, right, which is automatic, and it debits your account immediately. But if it's done through the signature side, the funds are still put on hold in your account. They might not come out for a day or two's time. So it's not technically credit because your account's already been charged those funds. So you're not getting that credit card history if that's what you're kind of going toward on this one. The debit card that's associated with your checking account is whatever funds you have in your account. If you overdraw that, you're going to be probably paying a hefty fee to overdraft your account. And I would say, please don't do that. Right? Credit cards are very separate because you're given so much to use, but it's not linked to your actual cash that you have sitting in your account. Does that help?
Yeah, I got you.
So you're saying if somebody asks, do you want this run as debit or as credit? And if it's a debit card and you select credit, that's not establishing you a credit history.
You're 100% correct. All that, it's just the way that they process it out of your account. If they can debit it out, I would say, please let them debit it out of your account, because for anyone that's seen it or had any friends or family that have had these issues and stuff, you can mess up your balances in your account very quickly by having someone run it as credit, because you forget that those funds are getting withdrawn out of your account the next day. And if you use it in between there, you're going to cause yourself the overdraft and a little bit of damage to your account. The only time I would say probably not to use your debit side is at the gas pumps. All right, that's a personal feeling. If you want to use your debit card with your PIN number for gas, I would always say go inside the gas station and do it at the register inside. Because if you do it outside, I would say just do it as the credit side only, and then what you'll see is usually the next day it'll draft out the amount that you pumped.
And that's for security purposes?
That's more for security
Because
purposes.
people can put devices on it to
Yep.
skim your PIN.
Yeah, it's just more for your guys' safety than anything else. All
I
right.
just want to let you all know we have 2 locations on campus, so come by and see us. We're at the Breezeway and we're at the Arena. So please stop by and see us. We do have coffee at Arena. Stop by
Right
and
across
see
from
us.
Tower 3. If you,
I was just saying, because most of you guys live in the towers, correct? Right?
a lot of them do.
Yeah.
a lot
So
of
stop by
freshmen
and see us. We,
Go get some coffee.
Yeah, and talk about
These guys are tired of talking to each other.
Yes.
They want visitors, okay? Come and hang out. Come and talk. They've got an area you guys can study in if you want to, just to get away from the day-to-day stuff. They got a table in there. They got a little study lounge in there if you guys want to get away. You're more than welcome to come and hang out with us at any time.
Free caffeine.
All right, well, if you guys have any other questions, please, thank you. We appreciate it. Do not hesitate to ever stop in and ask. All right.
Great, thank you so much.